Which players do you feel could benefit from his arrival? Well, I think there are several we could talk about. There's Manuel Ugarte, of course, coming back together with his former boss at Sporting. Rasmus Højlund, could he benefit from working with a manager who had great success with Victor López at Sporting? But I think Amad Diallo is another in those inside forward positions behind the striker. He is someone who right now looks like he might have a slight edge on Rashford and Garnacho in terms of form. And we can see that if we look at his stats, which we're going to show you now, so he obviously is in a good run of form, Amad. And these numbers here, which are for the Premier League this season, these are per 90-minute stats on the ball this season. These really show how well Amad is doing in comparison to Garnacho and Rashford in these positions. So let's start with chances created here. So over on the far side, you can see that Amad Diallo is averaging 2.6 chances per 90 minutes, which is twice as many as either Rashford or Garnacho. He's making a lot more final third passes as well. 20.3 final third passes per 90 minutes. Again, a lot more than Rashford, a lot more Garnacho. He's much more involved in linking the play in the final third. He makes more dribbles this season. We see he's on 1.3 per 90 minutes, which is more than the other two. And then distance carried. So this kind of reflects his ball carrying ability. So on average per 90 minutes, he carries the ball 277.4 meters per 90 minutes, which again is a lot more than Garnacho and Rashford. And at the bottom there, we see shots. Now Garnacho is top in this metric with 3.9 per 90 minutes, but Amad registering pretty healthy numbers, 2.3 per 90 minutes. And Rashford, you can see only 1.2 shots per 90 minutes for him. So on the ball, Amad is stacking up pretty favorably, and off the ball as well. We can see how impactful he's been this season in comparison with these two. So we'll show you these numbers now. So these are off the ball numbers for this season per 90 minutes. Possessions won in the final third. Amad is 1.5 per 90 minutes, which again is much higher than Garnacho or Rashford. His tackles, he's up on 3 per 90 minutes. Again, a lot higher than Garnacho and Rashford. And he's close to 11 kilometers per 90 minutes. The other two are closer to 10. Garnacho on exactly 10 kilometers per 90 minutes. And off the ball runs there at the bottom. Again, Amad Diallo comes out on top. So I think this is important too for Amorim, given the emphasis he places on pressing, on intensity out of possession. Amad does look like someone who can provide those things as well as goal threat and creativity at the moment. Okay, there's been a lot of talk, of course, around Amorim's preferred formation, 3-4-3 or 3-4-2-1, depending how you look at it. So what could that potentially look like for United once the international break is over? Yeah, it's interesting to think what that first team could look like, isn't it? We've had a stab at it here. So we'll start from the back. We're using his favored formation, as you say, 3-4-2-1, 3-4-3. These are the systems he likes to use. No debate, really, over the goalkeeper. Onana in goal. We've gone for Lenny Yoro as the right-sided centre-back in the 3. Obviously, he hasn't played since pre-season due to his injury, but he is now back in training. He's got a fortnight with the new manager on the training ground. And maybe that could help him get up to speed and maybe get into that team. We then move through to midfield. Casemiro and Ugarte have worked well together in the recent games. Kobbie Mainoo is still injured, so a bit of uncertainty there. So those two are the guys we've gone with. Mazraoui gets the nod on Diallo at right wing back. He's in good form. And then we've gone for Garnacho as the left wing back, just because Luke Shaw probably won't be ready for this game, and otherwise you're looking at playing Diallo out of position. And of course, Garnacho at left wing back. He would be providing the width on that side, and maybe that would allow you to have Bruno Fernandes coming inside into that number 10 position, in that inside left position, with Amad Diallo potentially as the right-sided forward behind Rasmus Højlund. So there you go, there's our potential Xi to face Ipswich, but I'm sure Amorim will have his own ideas and he'll be working hard on the training ground to see what's best for him for this game. Yeah, as I'm looking, there are plenty of options for the new head coach. The first thing that jumped out of me is that there's no Marcus Rashford in that team, so how does Amorim get him back firing? Yeah, well, he hasn't been at his best at all this season, has he? And we can see that if we look at these numbers here. So here we have his goal involvements per 90 minutes for each of his 10 Premier League seasons. So now you see the seasons where he's been at his most effective, he generally averages between 0.6 and 0.8 goal involvements per 90 minutes. Now, in the last 2 seasons, I'll come over here now, I'll show you 0.36 per 90 minutes last season, which was well below what we have come to expect from Rashford, and then 0.24 this season. So only 1 goal and 1 assist in his Premier League appearances so far, which is his lowest rate of productivity at Manchester United. So that's a big challenge for Amorim, I think. We all know the talent this man has. We all know what a game changer he can be. But can he get him playing with confidence? Can he increase that productivity in front of goal? That'll be a big job for him at Manchester United. Yeah, okay. Well, one man who has returned to form is the captain Bruno Fernandes. And not just linguistically, but how key is he going to be? Well, he'll be huge, won't he? What a big player he is for Manchester United. Of course, captain, the best player as well. And we see here how his form has improved in the recent games under Van Nistelrooy compared to earlier in the season. So under Ten Hag earlier in the season, this is all competitions. He hadn't scored a single goal had he, in over 1,000 minutes played under Van Nistelrooy. 4 goals in 360 minutes. So really impressive return there. 2 assists as well under Van Nistelrooy, 5 of those under Ten Hag. But in terms of goal involvements per 90 minutes, you can see the difference, can't you? 1.5 per 90 minutes under Van Nistelrooy, only 0.4 under Ten Hag. And look at that last stat as well. Chances created, 5.3 per 90 minutes up from 2.1. Really impressive numbers there. 21 chances created across Van Nistelrooy's 4 games. So that's something that bodes well for Amorim. And we know, of course, how good Bruno is and how good he can be in this form he's been showing under Van Nistelrooy. It's much more like what we've come to expect from him in the Premier League, and we've got another graphic we'll show you now, which shows just the context of how good he's been. So here we go. These are goal involvements in all competitions since Bruno Fernandes' Man United debut. So these are Premier League players only, and you see that his numbers are seriously impressive, aren't they? 83 goals, 72 assists. He's behind only Mohamed Salah there, and Kevin De Bruyne and Heung-min Son make up the rest of the top 4. So he's in good company. We know his quality, and Ruben Amorim will be hoping that he can deliver this kind of form consistently. Nistelrooy then, who's spoken for the first time since it was decided earlier this week that he won't be part of the new Manchester United setup on the bus room in Amorim. Now, Van Nistelrooy was appointed as interim after United made the decision to sack Erik Ten Hag just last month. He had a good spell in charge as well. 4 games in charge, unbeaten in that run, and sounded off with a quite simply incredible 3-0 win over Leicester. Cue the Jose Mourinho celebrations all the way down the touchline. Van Nistelrooy has written a letter to the United fans, and here's what he's had to say. To everyone at Manchester United Football Club, in particular the backroom staff, the players, the fans, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for your incredible efforts and support. It has been a privilege, he says, and an honor to represent the club as a player, coach, and a manager, and I will always cherish the memories we shared together. Man United will always have a special place in my heart. I hope there are many more glory days at Old Trafford very soon, not only because I want the club to do well, but because you all deserve it. All the best and take care, Ruud. Now it might be the international break, but the work doesn't stop for Ruben Amorim as he prepares for his second day in charge at Manchester United. We can rejoin our reporter Jason O'Brien, who is outside Carrington training ground. Jason, how is day 2 shaping up after a busy first day for the new head coach? Yeah, well, Ruben Amorim has arrived here at United's Carrington training ground. He arrived in one of 2 people carriers that drove into Carrington a short while ago. And his backroom staff, or some of his backroom staff I should say, were with him as well. Not all of them just yet. And we're also told that the backroom staff will not be announced until the visa process is complete. Of course, Ruben Amorim himself can't take training until his visa is approved, but he is allowed on site. He is allowed to hold meetings as well, and that's some of what he will be doing once again today. He did arrive yesterday, admittedly after the players had gone, so he's not had a chance to see the players who aren't away on international duty just yet. The players actually have a day off today as well, but there are the injured players in at the moment undergoing their rehabilitation, their return to injury programs. Return from injury programs, I should say as well, so there's the possibility of meeting them, but at the same time we're also told that he will be meeting Darren Fletcher, of course, a key link between the academy and the first team as well. Yesterday he met with Dan Ashworth, of course, Jason Wilcox, Omar Barada as well when he arrived here. He flew into the country and landed at Manchester Airport around about 1:30 yesterday afternoon and came straight to the training ground, so the work is very much underway. It was a busy day yesterday, and it looks like today is going to pan out pretty much the same as he looks to start getting, of course, as well, or planning as well, how he gets his footballing philosophy across. We know that he likes to play 3-4-3. He will look at the squad, you would imagine at least, and see what is the best way of getting the most out of the current crop of players that he's inherited, of course. We also know yesterday that Ruud van Nistelrooy was confirmed that he won't be part of that backroom setup as well, so the work has begun in earnest and it continues today. Ruud van Nistelrooy here at Manchester United's Carrington training ground. Now, Coventry's still on the hunt for a new manager, and there's a new name in the mix, Ruud van Nistelrooy. The former Manchester United interim manager and assistant coach has been named as the new favourite for the job at the Championship side, with Lee Carsley and Frank Lampard also in the running. Jamie Mackey says it'll be a different challenge for Van Nistelrooy if he were to succeed Mark Robins. I was surprised when I saw the betting odds, and when you've mentioned it there, we were talking about it before, and it's very different from where he's been and what he's been used to. Clearly got a really good reaction out of the Man United players and did a really good job. I wasn't necessarily surprised that he left there, I think, with the new manager coming in. You just come in sort of a clean slate with your own people who you trust and whatnot, but I don't think he's done his reputation any harm at all. I just think the Championship is very, very different from stepping into 4 or 5 games at Manchester United and you don't know the league at all. I think, by all accounts, he's applied for it and is keen, which obviously tells me a lot that he wants to get onto this journey. I'd like to think he's looked at a lot of Championship games. As I say, it's very different to what he's been used to. Vincent Kompany probably didn't know the Championship all that well, did he? No, and I think there's quite a lot of managers that haven't known the Championship and done quite well. I don't think Daniel Farke did that much when he came into the league and managed to get promotion on 2 separate occasions. I think also we've got to remember he's managed PSV. I think his win rate was something like, just checking there, 65% win rate. He's obviously done quite well in a few games for Man United. When you've managed PSV and Man United, yes, a short stint, I'd be surprised about it. I think it'd be a brilliant appointment for Coventry. I think Coventry's a terrifically attractive job for a lot of managers. However, I would be surprised with that fit. I think they'll take a little bit more time. They've spoke about that. It is a busy night here on Sports Suntra because now let's get to some breaking news from Manchester United. Now the club has confirmed that Ruud van Nistelrooy has indeed left the club following his spell as interim manager. Now Sonny, Ruud van Nistelrooy is at Carrington for us now. So look, of course it was his last game in charge, wasn't it, yesterday? Ruben Amorim has arrived and now Ruud has gone. He's made his mark, hasn't he? What more can you tell us? Yes, so Ruud van Nistelrooy, who took charge of Manchester United for these 4 games as interim boss, has left Manchester United. He was at Carrington this morning and left fairly early. And that was the first indicator that we had that something could be happening. Of course, when I say first indicator, there were a couple more as well. We saw his kind of emotional scenes at full time in that 3-0 win against Leicester. He was over at the Stratford end with all the hardcore Man United fans. And, the scenes there were quite emotional for him. He's got a great connection to the club as a striker where he scored 150 goals, left in somewhat acrimonious circumstances to Real Madrid, but then made amends with Sir Alex Ferguson, who was the manager at the time. And yeah, in that time, Premier League, FA Cup, League Cup, Community Shields, 22-time Player of the Year. So, as a player, certainly he was well respected. He's come in as an interim coach. Originally, he was here as a coach under Erik ten Hag this summer. And then when Ten Hag left, Van Nistelrooy took over, winning 3 games, drawing the 1. And yeah, the club today, just a few minutes ago, tweeting that him along with 3 other coaches have left the club. We thank you for your unwavering commitment to our club, is what Man United say. They say Ruud is and always will be a Manchester United legend. We are grateful for his contribution and the way in which he approached his role throughout his time with the club. He will always be welcome at Old Trafford. So Ruud van Nistelrooy leaves along with coaches René Hacker, Jelle ten Riewelaar and Pieter Moral. So, they've all departed and the club say they wish them well with their future. So Ruud van Nistelrooy, 150 goals in 219 games between 2001 and 2006. This interim spell as manager before Ruben Amorim comes in. But his time at Manchester United is now at an end, and perhaps we might see him back in a dugout soon. He was the PSV manager before coming into United as a coach. And he certainly has, well, if there was any acrimony in his departure, he certainly reignited all the love from Manchester United fans here. But his time at United is at an end. Yes, Sani, look, it looked like from his managerial notes yesterday and the program notes that it was a bit of a farewell from him. We heard early in the week, though, didn't we, that the players wanted him to stay. So, it seems a strange turn of events. Yeah, on the one hand, yeah, you could say that. And perhaps one could argue that having Van Nistelrooy as some sort of link to United's heritage, and then that link to the players, and whether they'd want some sort of handover to the new manager, there's an argument you could have him there. But equally, Ruben Amorim, we know, is bringing in a host of coaches along with him. He's got good connections already as far as with the people he's been working with at the club already. We saw him hugging Omar Barada, who's one of the directors at the club, and meeting Dan Ashworth and Jason Wilcox today. So certainly there's a hierarchy around the club who clearly feel that they can do that handing over process that perhaps Van Nistelrooy could have done. So yeah, on the one hand, you could say it's a bit surprising that Van Nistelrooy is going on the other. You could say that Ruben Amorim is his own man and wants his own people in, and Van Nistelrooy isn't necessarily. Well, he isn't one of Amorim's own men, and that's one of the reasons why he's not going to be there. So, on the one hand, surprising, but on the other hand, we can kind of see the reasons behind it. And in terms, just finally on Ruud van Nistelrooy, we'll talk a bit about Amorim in just a second. But in terms of Ruud van Nistelrooy, what does he do now? Does he seek to get a number one job, do you feel? Well, that's really interesting, isn't it? Because he was the manager of PSV, kind of left on the penultimate game of the season 2 seasons ago when he was manager there in Eredivisie, and was on the verge of guiding him to second place in the league. And so, he has that pedigree behind him. I think there were few clubs he would have gone to as an assistant or as a number 2. Man United has a real special place in his heart, which would have certainly been part of the element of why he would do that. I mean, there'll be some United fans out there thinking, well, look at how well he's done as an interim manager here, winning those 3 games, the draw against Chelsea in the Premier League, and then the win yesterday. Could he ever have been the main man at Old Trafford here? Perhaps that's something for him in the future. And if that is the case, then going away and becoming a manager elsewhere again in his own right will be the next course for him. So yes, Van Nistelrooy, very emotional, as you mentioned, in the program as well. We saw those scenes as well, so he's got that connection. Never say never, but for now, it's all about Ruben Amorim. And for Van Nistelrooy, we'll have to wait and see where he may pop up next as a manager himself in his own right again. Yes, and as you said, it is all about Ruben Amorim. He's taken charge of his very first day at Manchester United then. What's he been up to? Well, yes, so he has been meeting club officials today. Omar Barada, the sporting director, being one of them, along with Jason Wilcox and the rest of the staff as well there. And he is still actually having to await the final parts of his visa to be sorted. So, at the moment, he can hold meetings and meet key officials and key members of the staff, which is what he's been doing at Carrington today. He can't yet take coaching, though, until the final parts of his visa is done. But by all accounts, that's for one. That's a thing that happens every time, whenever in the post-Brexit age, a foreign national comes to the UK to work. They need to do those final parts in the country. So he's got to do that final bit in the UK, and once he's done that, he can coach. And that, by all accounts, should be quite a quick process. So we could see him on the training ground, taking training or doing the coaching side of that role that he wants to be doing very soon as well. Okay, Jonathan, brilliant from you. Thank you very much. You mentioned a minute ago, Jamie, about Tottenham's frustration for the fans. They sit 10th in the Premier League, won 5, drawn 1, lost 5. What is the sentiment in the Spurs supporters regarding Ange Postecoglou at the moment? It's a mixed bag, to be honest. Some of them are not happy. Some of them would likely make a change. I don't think that's the right move. I think the problem you've got with Ange is he's very stubborn and he doesn't want to change the way he wants to play. He doesn't want to adapt. As Dean said, you can't go 1-0 down. Was it 13? 13 out of 15 home games in the Premier League. 13 out of 15 home games, you're going 1-0 down this year. That's not good enough. As much as you want to play exciting football, you've got to keep the ball at the back of the net and you've got to start games and dictate tempos of games. You're not going to go and win 3-4-0 in the first half of a game. It's going to be tight. The team's going to be hard to beat and break down. You've got to be patient. Spurs just try and go all-out attack as soon as the whistle goes. thinking they're going to roll teams over and teams don't roll over. You're missing Mickey van de Ven. Do you have to play differently when he's not in the team? I think you miss Van de Ven, but he's had a couple of off games. I don't mind Drogosin. I think Romero's a bit of a problem because he goes wandering. He goes all over the place. I think for the first goal, Drogosin's actually trying to stop the cross and Romero ends up coming across and defending the near post. It goes over his head. I don't know where the art of defending's gone, but back in the day, your two centre halves defend the middle of the goal, defend between the two posts. That's your job. Keep the ball at the back of the net, defend between two posts and get your fullbacks alongside you, get your centre half in and be hard to beat. Spurs are all over the place at the back. Defenders running all over the place, crossing over, not tracking runners, getting in behind, and you're watching it and you're going, so easy, and that can't carry on. Eventually, the fans will turn and say, all right, we like excitement in football, but we don't want to be coming back from 2-0 down every week. Yeah, I mentioned that City lost to Tottenham in the League Cup. The next Premier League game for Tottenham, Saturday 23rd November, away to Manchester City. How big a game is that? A lot riding on it in both directions, potentially. It is. I mean, the home cup game, he went away from the possession and didn't try and take Manchester City on in that respect. They sat a bit deeper, defended really well and counter-attacked against Manchester City, so I'd expect them to do the same. He's got this unique style of both fullbacks can end up almost in the centre-forward position, and it means that your centre-backs are on their own, and the two holding midfield players have to be disciplined. And so when they get it wrong, you can end up with one centre-back on his own if teams get out in the right way. So I don't know whether that's something he'll look at. So many teams, yeah, one fullback maybe goes and the other one tucks in. Both fullbacks go, especially at home, and Jamie's right, maybe it's. And I've seen other games, like the Manchester City game, where they have defended properly and can do it, but he allows those fullbacks to. And that's part of getting out and creating overloads, I understand that for sure, but teams will spot it, will look for the weaknesses. Ipswich did it brilliantly today. Right, we've got breaking news from the England men's squad to bring you, and let me tell you, it is significant. 8 players have never known that many to withdraw from a squad. It's ahead of the Nations League games with Greece and the Republic of Ireland this week. 8 players have withdrawn, Jess, and some big names as well. Massive names? Yep. We'll start with Trent Alexander-Arnold, Levy Colwill, Phil Foden, Jack Grealish, Cole Palmer, Aaron Ramsdale, Declan Rice and Bukayo Saka are all said to be unavailable. Yeah, I wonder what that means for their club sites as well, but it does mean opportunities for others now, and in comes, in particular, Aston Villa's Morgan Rogers. He's received his first senior call-up. He's been so impressive this season, hasn't he, for Villa? Scored 3 Premier League goals, but he's looked absolutely brilliant. Jared Bowen and Jared Brantwaite also being called up, along with the young captain Oliver Mento and James Trafford. They've all been added to Lee Carsley's squad. Still an exciting squad, I think. So all those 23 players will now prepare for Thursday's trip to Greece and then Sunday's match against the Republic of Ireland at Wembley. So just a reminder there that 8 players have been withdrawn for those Nation League games, but it is a first senior call-up for Aston Villa's Morgan Rogers. Now the breaking news is about Paul Pogba, who has confirmed his time at Juventus has now come to an end. The former Manchester United midfielder is preparing for his return to football in March after an 18-month doping ban. Have you got a statement? Yeah, he's released this statement, Pogba. It says, "My time at Juventus has come to an end. It's been a privilege to pull on the shirt of the Bianconeri and to share so many special moments together. I cherish the memories we made. They live on. Even in the most difficult moments over the past year, your support was crucial, and I want to thank Juve fans around the world for their compassion. It's been a pleasure to have experienced so many great moments with my teammates over the years, and I wish them every success in the future. I'm looking forward to the next chapter of my career and to stepping out on the pitch with my next club." So Paul Pogba confirms that his time has come to an end at Juventus. As soon as we have any news on where he may be playing next, we'll bring that to you here on 1 Hour Sports News.